Hello, hello. My name is Michelle Drew, and I'm your host here on From Mess to a Message, where I interview inspiring people who have been through a messy time in their life, and they've come through to the other side with a message of hope and inspiration. My guest today, oh my gosh, I was introduced to her by her TED Talk. Somebody sent me her TED Talk, and I'm like, I need to meet this lady. And I don't even want to tell you anything about her story because I don't want to rob you of the journey and the experience of her story. So I'm simply going to welcome Brisa Alfaro to our channel today. And Brisa, thank you so much for agreeing to share your story, even on such short notice. We spoke just the other day. So thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having this platform.
Oh,
It's beautiful, the messages that you've been sharing. I got a chance to go through some of them
yeah,
and impactful,
yeah.
very impactful.
Thank you so much. It was a message from God. I was on Zoom with somebody and I picked up the pen and I wrote mess to message. And I'm like, okay, I guess that's what we're doing.
Yes,
So thank you for appreciating it. Can you take
of
us
course.
back to that time that you found yourself like so unexpectedly in a situation? Can you kind of take us back and walk us through that?
Yes. Well, I'm sure there's a lot of things I can think of that I've had a mess and I've learned my messages. But there was this one particular time that I did not feel like I deserved this message. Um, I didn't want it. I didn't think I needed it. Um, but sometimes we don't realize that um, we did need it. We did need that message. We did need that mess to be able to get to that message. And that happened to me 10 years ago while I was living my best life. I was traveling and teaching in the beauty industry, and my work was in magazines. I was traveling all over to different beauty salons and hair shows and meeting all these people. I thought that that was going to be my life. I thought that um, really nothing terrible was going to happen to me because I'm not a terrible person and I don't deserve terrible things to happen to me. But that's not how the world works.
No,
And
unfortunately.
no, and sometimes things will happen to completely rock our world. And that's what happened to me 10 years ago while I was in New York City.
Mhm,
I didn't understand what was going on.
mhm,
I was 32 years old. I went into the hospital because I wasn't feeling well. I
mhm,
didn't know what was going on with me, but I wasn't feeling well. So I had, of course, spoke to my mom before, and she says, "Yeah, that doesn't sound good. You need to go to the hospital." So I'm in the hospital, filling out my paperwork. While I'm in the hospital filling out paperwork, all of a sudden I'm hearing the doctors and everybody. They're all talking about me. They're all rushing with me and everything, and I'm not. No one's speaking to me, and I don't understand why they're not telling me what's going on. They're telling each other what's going on. And at that point, I was like, okay, there's something big that's happening. I don't know what it is. And they're not telling me. And it wasn't that they weren't telling me, it's just that I wasn't responding to anything that they were trying to tell me. And I realized from the little bits and pieces that I was grabbing from them, I had a stroke. And I didn't have any stroke. I had something called locked in syndrome, where I was locked in my own body and I wasn't able to communicate with the outside world. So it wasn't that the doctors were ignoring me, it wasn't any of that. It was just that I couldn't respond to them. So they realized it before I did, and they stopped asking me, and they were just talking to each other. And I didn't understand that
Mm,
I had a stroke. I didn't understand that someone my age could have a stroke.
right.
Um, I didn't understand why me. And I think that a lot of us go through things. When we hit rock bottom, we'll ask, why me?
Why me? Yeah. Yeah.
We do, and we think that we are, I don't know, a rare exception, that
Right.
bad things can't happen to us.
Right.
But I think it happens for us.
Right. I
And
agree with you.
I didn't realize that until I started on my journey of recovery.
Yeah.
But just to go back, so I'm laying there at this point I'm in the hospital bed, and I'm listening to them pronounce my fate, essentially. Like, this girl,
Mm,
medically speaking, they're saying all these things, and I couldn't understand it. But patient, Brisa Alfaro, she suffered a stroke. I can't even remember exactly what the words that they were saying, but Brisa developed locked-in syndrome, um, and I didn't know what that was. When my mom was finally called to come to the hospital and they had to explain it to her, that was the
wow.
first time that I understood what locked-in syndrome was.
Sure.
And I understood that, oh, I'm locked in my body and I can't communicate, because the words that they were telling my mom was, your daughter suffered a very extreme stroke. So most people that have strokes affect a certain side of their body, the left side or the right side. Mine happened in the middle and affected both sides. So I was awake and aware, but I was unable to communicate with the outside world.
How
So
scary. Oof.
it was terrifying,
Yes.
terrifying, because you want to yell and scream and say, no, that's not me, that can't be me. I have plans, I have goals, I have things I want to accomplish. You can't possibly be talking about me. And they are. And
Wow.
there's nothing you can do about it. You're just laying there. And the only thing that I was able to do was move my eyes. I wasn't able to breathe on my own. I wasn't able to have any body reflexes. There was no sign of life left in my body. And at this point, I didn't even have eye movement. At this point, they had medically induced me into a coma.
Right.
Um, but I could still hear when my mom got there. I could still hear as they were uh, talking to her and describing my situation. And that's when it kind of became my reality.
Mm,
When they started describing what my future was going to look like, that's when I started to get scared. And when they started to talk about the odds of me recovering were less than 1%, that
wow.
there was less than 5 cases per year worldwide of the kind of stroke that I just had.
Wow.
And I remember being so frustrated, but also thinking, less than 1%, not no percent.
Oh my God. I love that.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Wow.
And I ran with it. That
Wow.
one little chance, if I can show my family that I am in my body and that I am trying, because the doctors were so not hopeful. The doctors were like, this is not a way to live. She's going to be in a vegetative state for the rest of her life. She's going to need breathing machines, feeding tube. She's going to be a body laying in a bed and have sores on her body and not going to be able to move, like all these things that
And you're
this.
hearing all of this.
Yes. And this picture was being painted to my family, and I was so afraid that they were going to believe it.
Mm.
And I was very fortunate that my family never did.
Yeah.
And my mom rallied around the rest of my family. Everybody was on the same page, and they said, no, we're not going to pull the plug on her. We are going to work with her. She's still in there. My mom said it over and over to the doctors. You don't know the strength that my daughter has.
Ah.
You don't know how stubborn she is.
That's good.
You don't know my daughter. She's going to be fine. And so she was very stubborn about it, and she reminded me who I was,
Mm.
reminded me what I want. She pretty much gave me my why when
Mm.
I couldn't find it myself.
Ah.
So she gave me something in Spanish that we call ganas. It's like the will to live. It's will. It's sheer will.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's what she gave me. And I was reminded of every reason why I needed to live, why I needed to make it. And I remember holding on to that hope. And I realized that this is my decision. This is no one else's decision. No one else has the ability to control my mind. Yes, I have a brain injury, but there's nothing wrong with my mind.
Right.
So, you know what they say, you just have to make up your mind.
Mm.
That's what I did.
Yeah.
I made up my mind. I made up my mind that I was going to have a complete physical recovery. I knew it was going to happen, even though there was absolutely zero evidence as to why I should have a complete physical recovery.
The
There was no
mind is so
evidence.
powerful. Oh my gosh.
So powerful. So I'm laying there in the bed, and my mom is laying next to me every single day, reminding me what I'm working for, reminding me to connect the dots, neurologically speaking. So, I'm touching your forehead, Brisa. Can you feel that? Can you feel that? Yes, now I can. Now I'm putting it together. Okay, that's the feeling of touch. You're touching my forehead. I'm touching your nose. Do you feel that? Now I'm putting that together. You're touching my nose. I'm holding your hand. Do you feel me holding your hand?
Your mom is
Yes, I feel
brilliant.
that. Right? Yeah.
Yes.
She didn't even like, she's not a doctor. She doesn't know. She's just a mom. And you guys have that, like, I don't know, are you a mom?
I'm not. No.
I'm not either, but I still feel like I have it.
Yes.
And
Yes.
when I'm with my nieces, when I'm with people, like when I come to them in a loving way
Yeah.
and I really want to help them,
Yeah.
I feel like that mom gene perks up in me, and
Yeah.
I'm able to like speak to them in the language that they need to hear.
Yeah.
And I feel like my mom tapped into that.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, I'm like I said, I'm not a mom, but every once in a while I have that ability. And I think as a woman, we have that ability to be able to tap into that. And it's a superpower. And I
Yes.
had no idea how huge that is until I saw my mom doing it.
Right.
And she was so non-negotiable about my recovery
Yeah.
that it started to seep into me, and I started to believe it myself. I started to believe, wow, she really, really believes that I can do this.
Mm.
Now I feel like I really can too.
Yeah.
And
Now,
I
how
started
long were you
to,
in the hospital in total?
so in this point of my recovery, I was in New York City. This is where it happened. I was locked in my body for about 3 weeks. So I wasn't able to fly back to California where my family lives.
Right.
I wasn't able to fly back to California until I was stable enough. My recovery has been ongoing. I'm still recovering,
Yes.
but it's been 10 years.
Yeah.
Physically speaking, I think I got to my most physical place where I was feeling the most recovered, physically speaking, in about 5 years. It took me
Okay.
about 5 years.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
at this point, I'm lying in the bed and listening to my mom, and she is I'm a sponge at this point. She's just talking to me and filling my mind with possibility. And one thing that she did for me was she played audiobooks for me. And one of the audiobooks was The Secret. I don't know if you know of The Secret, but
I sure
it
do.
focuses on the law of attraction. And
Yeah.
whatever you focus on grows, right? So you um you want something to happen, you have to attract it to happen. And there's so many things that go into that, but this was my first step.
Yes.
And listening to it, to the possibility
Mm.
of maybe this is possible. Maybe my mind can achieve all the things that I'm dreaming and hoping for. And it first started with listening to a woman that was one of the authors in the book, along with Rhonda. Her name was Lisa Nichols.
Oh, yeah.
And she said the first step is to ask. Make a command to the universe. Let the universe know what you want, because the universe responds to your thoughts. Thoughts were all I had.
That's all you have. Yeah.
So if all I had to do was change my thoughts and it would change my life, that was something I could do.
Right.
And
Right.
that's what I did. I focused on nothing but complete healing. Anytime a doctor came in and spoke of my inevitable fate that they thought was going to happen, I
Mhm.
didn't listen. I knew I had one goal. And nothing was going to take me from it. And so I just kept trying to show my family a sign that I was still in my body. And over and over and over, I would try, and
Mhm.
they would ask me, and I would try. It felt like it was like imagine it was like an energy beam coming from my brain, passing the barricade at my brainstem, traveling down through my arm, passing my elbow, and then it would get to my wrist, and it would just stall at my wrist.
Um,
And I'm trying to open my hand, show my family a sign that I'm in my body, and I couldn't do it. It would just stall and stall. And many times it kind of happens to us when we're trying to achieve something new, make some kind of breakthrough in our life, in our business, in our relationships, and whatever it is that we're trying to make a difference. And it just doesn't get there.
yeah.
We start to feel like we're making progress, and it just doesn't break that barrier.
Mhm.
And sometimes we'll have a moment where we retreat back. And that's what happened to me in many moments, where that little energy beam would retract back because I didn't see progress,
Mm.
because no one saw it, because I finally moved, but no one saw it.
Mm.
Everybody was, there, but
Oh,
nobody was looking at me. So they didn't see it. And one time, my mom saw it, and she was so excited.
oh my God.
She ran to tell the doctors, my daughter's moving. She's moving on command. And the
And it
doctors,
was your pinky, right?
at that point, yes, it
Yeah.
was. But at that point, my mom, so excited, tells the doctors. And the doctors they said, I'm sorry, ma'am. I know you want to believe it, but those movements are involuntary.
Mm.
And that happens to us a lot,
Yeah.
where we try to make a big difference or even a small difference,
Yeah.
and it goes unnoticed.
Yeah.
It's not big enough, and it becomes discouraging.
Mm.
So my mom had a choice at that point to walk back to the hospital room with the tail between her legs and just chop it up, as those movements are involuntary. but she didn't. She's a stubborn Mexican mama. She had nothing to do with that. And she said, no, 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 you go back in there and you go check my daughter. And that's when they did. And that's when my quote unquote energy beam was able to make it through to the rest of my all the way down through my arm, passing my elbow, and made it to my hand. And I was able to flicker my pinky once again, this time with my doctors being able to see it. And so because they saw it, it was no longer, you know, the odds that they had stacked against me, the less than 1% chance. Now it was a recovery. And now I was able to show them that I was trying, and don't give up on me because I'm trying. So eventually I was able to move my hand, and then my arm, then the right side of my body came back to me. The left side came back to me months later. I was able to, months after that, learn how to walk with a walker and then a cane. And then eventually I was able to walk unassisted and run marathons.
Oh
And
my gosh, that I didn't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Wow.
So every little thing that I did, I pretty much base it off of my pinky move.
Yeah.
So if I could do that, then I can do this. So every little thing I did was stack my victories. I just kept stacking them. Every time I moved my pinky, every time today I was able to stand up on my own. That was a pinky move. Today I was able to take a shower on my own. That was a pinky move. Today I was able to drive a car on my own. That was a pinky move.
Yeah.
Today I was able to stand on a TEDx stage and share my message. That was a pinky move. Today I was able to stand on Lisa Nichols' stage and share with her how she saved my life. Her words saved my life.
Wow.
I was able to share that with her and her audience and thousands of people that were listening in that very moment. And as a result of that, someone in the audience said, I want to publish a book. I want you to write a book, and I want to publish it. And then Lisa Nichols herself says, and I want to write the foreword to your book. I had no plans on being a speaker, author, coach. I had no plans. But
God had a different plan.
God had a different plan.
Yeah.
And that's why I say, like, you know, sometimes you do have to let your mess become your message. You do have to let that happen, because you don't realize what beauty is going to come out of this mess. I had no idea that that was going to be my future, that I was going to become an international #1 best-selling author. Me? I was going to do that? It blew my mind. Like, I didn't think that I could speak on some of these stages that I've been blessed to share my story on. I didn't think, I mean, we were just talking before we started, I didn't think that I could speak alongside with some of these amazing speakers. I would start to get imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Where I would think, who am I to be speaking next to these giants? Like, in my mind, they're giants because I've been following them, and I know who they are and who they serve and what difference they make in the world. And I'm thinking, there's no way that I'm in the same room with them, let alone
and I'll
the
bet
same
they think you're
stage.
a giant.
It's crazy how we think that imposter syndrome can really mess with us, because we think like all these things, but like you said, on the flip side, they're thinking the same thing of us and going like, but look what you overcame.
Right.
Look what you did. And I mean, I go through that when I'm coaching my clients that are also trying to make pinky moves in their recoveries. And I listen to their stories and I'm thinking, wow, it's incredible. It's incredible what you did to get to where you are now it's completely incredible. And you know what they say? Well, it's not what you did. And I'm like, whoa, no, you can't, you can't discredit what you've accomplished. I mean,
Right.
some of us have like my my brother, he just had a baby. His wife, I feel like moms from pregnancy to giving birth to raising their kid, they're freaking super moms.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't know how they do it,
Yeah.
honestly. And like, I'm never going to be a mom in that dynamic,
Right.
but I can't even imagine. And I think that's when people look at me and they think, whoa, I can't even imagine going through what you went through. But I think of the same thing when I talk to a mom and I think, can't even imagine all of what you have gone through and are going through.
Mm,
And you do it with a smile on your face.
yeah. And you know what struck me as you were telling that story? What your mom was for you, you are for your coaching clients. You're the encouragement, you're the belief in them that they have to borrow from you until they have it for themselves. And that is such a gift. That is such a
Yeah.
gift. You've got me all teary over here.
Mm,
I
thank you.
love that. I love that. So, what does life look like for you now? You're back in California. You're coaching clients, and tell us what life looks like for you now, Brisa.
So, so now I like, yes, I am coaching clients. I do want to open, um, I've been dabbling in opening my coaching. I used to be very laser focused on working with only stroke survivors,
Okay.
but I realized because of the people that have reached out to me, and I'm talking like people from all over the world that have dealt with certain things that they don't know how to break free from.
Yeah.
They also feel confined to their circumstances. They also feel like they are locked in their circumstances and they don't know how to break out of them. And I realized that my story, my message, and my coaching is not just linear. And although that is who I was helping before, of
Mhm.
course, I wanted to help my own community, but I also realized that there are a lot more people that need
Yeah.
my help. And
Yeah.
and as a result, it helps me because I every time am able to share my truth and share my story, I'm shedding a lot of of built up emotions and trauma and guilt and all the things that go along with trauma.
Mm.
I've like shedding them little by little, and as I'm coaching people, I'm realizing I'm stepping into the greatest version of myself.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that all of us have something to share with someone,
Mhm.
whether it be on a large scale or a small scale.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, there was one day I was buying makeup at a makeup counter one day, and this is how God works in mysterious ways. I have a scar on my neck,
Okay.
and that was
Okay.
from the machines that
Yeah.
were breathing
Right.
for me.
Right.
Um, and she asked me, "Can I ask you what happened?" And usually, when people do, I just kind of give them the small little condensed version. But I had a feeling she needed to know more, and I told her more. And as I was sharing my very condensed version of my story, she started crying. And I didn't know why she was crying. I didn't know why she was taking it that way.
Mm.
And it almost scared me. I'm like, ooh, maybe I shared too much. And she said, I'm sorry I'm crying, but you have no idea how much I needed to hear that right now. I there's I don't relate to anything about having a stroke or anything about that, but I do relate to this. I just lost my daughter,
Mm.
and this is my first day back at work after being gone, and I never thought that I could go back to work
Mm.
because I've been grieving so hard. And after you just shared your story, I realized that I just have to make pinky moves
Oh,
every day.
wow.
And I, and that moment, then I started crying
Yeah.
because I realized, like, yeah, our stories are not for us.
Yeah,
They're
that's so
not.
true.
And it doesn't matter how big or small, even if you're impacting one person,
Mm.
if you're making one person's day, if you're giving them one little nugget of hope, you have no idea about what that ripple effect can do.
Yes. So true. So true. Because now, if that woman has other children and her husband and her extended family and friends, she's going to show up differently,
Yeah.
little by little, by just those little
Mhm.
pinky moves.
Yes.
That, wow, wow. You are such a gift, Brisa.
Mm.
I'm like, oh, I'm having a hard time holding it together here. You are,
Sorry.
no, I know, I'm not shy about crying.
No. It
Yeah.
used to scare me when I first, just full transparency, when I first became a speaker and started sharing my story. Well, even before I became a speaker, when I first started sharing my story, when people would get emotional, I would back up and I wouldn't share my truth because
Mm.
I saw it as I'm hurting them. I'm hurting people and I don't want to hurt them. So I stopped sharing it. And then I realized, like, no, I'm helping people, not just helping other people, but I'm helping myself because I'm able to get it out. And I feel like there's a calling on my soul that
Yeah.
there's no accidents. I was not saved for like no reason. I mean, there
Right.
was a purpose for me to make my recovery and to recover to my degree and to share my message and to meet all the people that I've been meeting, to meet you. I mean,
Yeah.
now I get to share my story on your platform. I don't know who you know, and
Right.
and
Right.
and now who knows who our stories are going to help, you know?
Right.
And
Exactly.
that's what it's
Exactly.
about. I
Yeah.
think that's what life's about. Well,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
helping people.
There's a reason that we ended up in the same community together because
Absolutely.
yeah, there
Absolutely.
are no coincidences in life at
No.
all. Now, is there anything that we did not get a chance to touch on? I mean, you've got a an incredible story, and when you mentioned in the beginning that this is just one small piece of all the things that you've been through, we just may have to hop on here again sometime. But is there anything that you wanted to share with people that we didn't get a chance to touch on?
Yes. I kind of skimmed through it. Your mind is such a
Mm.
powerful thing. And I did say you know, even if you have a brain injury, there's nothing wrong with your mind.
Mhm.
Imagine if you don't have a brain injury and everything is completely fine,
Mm.
physically speaking. If you learn how to use your mind and learn how to make it work for you and not against you, you will become limitless.
Yeah.
And there are so many ways to tap in to your powerful mind. And that I, one little nugget that I can give your listeners, a little nugget of hope that you can go home with, is start to celebrate your pinky moves.
Mm.
Celebration is like a magnet. It attracts more. It attracts more because it loves to be celebrated. And when you start a party, it's like people want to know what's going on over there. What's going on? And they want to go check it out. And so when you start the party in your mind, when you start to celebrate all the little things that you can do, all the little things that you did, no matter how small, celebrate them.
Mm.
That's just one small pinky move you can do today. Small moves will lead to big results.
What great advice. Such great advice. Absolutely. Now, where can people find you? Actually, before I go there,
Mm,
um, is that the message, like the overlying message is the celebration and,
yes.
celebrate your pinky moves? Perfect. Perfect. That
Mhm.
was incredible. And it's something that everybody can do, and it just, and I love the way you've coined the phrase pinky moves because now people are going to be like thinking about that, right?
Yep. Pinky moves.
That's it. I love it. I love it so much. So, where can people find you? Where can people go deeper with you? Because I know that there are going to be people going, how do I find her? How do I get coached by her? How do I connect with her? So,
Thank you.
I'll put them in the show notes as well. But if you can just speak them out where people can find you
Sure.
and your book too.
Well, my book, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can find it on Amazon. I'll give you the link so you can put it up there. But yeah, you can find me on, all the social media platforms under Brisa Alfaro. So my name is right here on the corner and you can just pull it up. Um, you can Google it and a bunch of stuff will pop up, but you can also go to brisalfaro.com, pinkymoves.com, if you can remember that one better.
Yeah.
So either one of those, pinkymoves.com, brisalfaro.com, and you can follow me along in my journey. If you'd like to work with me personally, you can just send me a message. Most of the time I can get back to people pretty quickly. I might, delay a couple days just because I do get a lot of messages from my community, but I will get back to you and I'd love to see how we can work together.
Mm, that is so wonderful. You are I know you've already touched so many lives, but every time you share your story, you're going to change so many lives because of that ripple effect you talked about, right? If you change one life today, that ripple effect is never ending. And
Never
that's
ending.
a beautiful thing. The beautiful thing. Brisa,
Yeah.
thank you so, so much for your vulnerability, your authenticity, and your heart. It comes through so, so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it. I'm excited to get to know you further.
Yes,
I
me
know
too.
we're going to be diving deep in the near future, so I'm excited to get to know more about you and who else you help in the world as well. So, thank you.
You bet.